Assalamu alaikum beta. Yesterday we were discussing transitive and intransitive verbs, and I told you about first write me the definition of the transitive. Let me write the definition of transitive and intransitive verbs once again. Transitive verbs. Okay, what is a transitive verb? A verb that denotes an action which passes over a verb that denotes an action. Okay, which passes over from doer of the action, that is the subject or subject, to an object. Okay, for example, I kicked the ball. When I kicked the ball, I am the subject and the ball is the object. Okay, because the action, that is kick, that passes over from the subject, that's me, to an object, that is ball, because it was the ball that was hit. So ball is the object and I am the subject. Now, intransitive verb. An intransitive verb is a verb that denotes an action, is a verb that denotes, I see taking it, denotes an action. Okay, that which does not pass, which does not pass over to an object. Or what it now indicates, because the action does not pass over to an object, so that transitive verb, it simply can be, we can define these two verbs as a transitive verb is a verb that requires an object, while an intransitive verb is a verb that doesn't require an object. So what an intransitive verb does then? For example, intransitive verb, he ran a long distance. What is this? This is action. He ran because it's action. Run is an action. So he ran a long distance. There's no object. Secondly, it denotes an action. Okay. Second is the baby sleeps. Baby sleeps. It doesn't require an object to perform sleeping. The baby sleeps is a state. Sleeping is a state. Okay. And there is a flaw in this diamond. What is this? This is being. Okay, so an intransitive verb may denote an action, it may denote a state, or it may denote a being. In case of the action does not pass over from the doer, that is the subject, to the object. Okay, now most transitive verbs, intransitive verbs actually expressing being, take the same cases after them as before them. Okay, most transitive verbs take a single object. Now, transitive verbs. So most of the transitive verbs, I have already told you that the transitive verbs, they require an object because the action or done by the subject or the doer passes over to some object. Now, that means the most of the transitive verbs take an object. Most of the transitive verbs take a single object, but there are such transitive verbs as give, ask, after, promise, tell. Take two objects after them. An indirect object which denotes the person to whom something is given or for whom something is done, and a direct, which is usually the name of that thing. For example, direct and indirect object, two objects. An intransitive verb taking two objects. Okay, now for example, his father gave him or me a watch. Okay, now watch, his father gave him a watch, two objects, but him is an indirect object. The action passes over to him and the watch. So here, him is an indirect object while the watch is a direct object. Direct object. Two objects. He told me a secret. Here, told me a secret is the direct object while me is an indirect object. Okay, so most of the transitive verbs take two objects, take a single object, but there are transitive verbs that may take two objects. That's one is indirect object and other is the direct object. Most of the verbs can be used both as transitive and intransitive verbs. There are many verbs that can be taken used both as transitive and intransitive. It's therefore better to say that a verb can be used transitively or intransitively rather than it is transitive. There's nothing like a transitive or intransitive verb. A verb can be used transitively and sometimes intransitively. We can use the same verb as transitively and intransitive. For example, the aunt fought the wasps. It's used transitively. Some aunts fight very fiercely. Use it intransitively because here the action does not pass over to the objects, but here the action passes over from the aunts to the wasps. The shot sank the ship. Transitively, it requires an object that the ship sank rapidly. So here the ship does not take an object. Ring the bell, Rama. The bell rang loudly. So here the ring the bell is an object. While the bell rang loudly, there's no object. Okay, so we can use most of the verbs can be used both transitively and intransitively. So we can say a verb therefore can be used as transitive or rather than it's transitive or intransitive. There is nothing like transitive or intransitive verb because most of the verbs can be used both transitively and intransitively. And I think it's enough for today. We'll calling it a day and meet you tomorrow again with a similar same topic. Till then, Khuda Hafiz.